In this video, I am going to be going over the first final exam review along with the built-in supports where you had to complete the gray boxes. In this first gray box, all they want us to do is simplify. The steps to simplify are distribute and then combine like terms. So I'm going to start by distributing this 3. There are invisible ones in front of the x and the y. I'm going to draw those in. The first few terms are not going to change. I'm just bringing them down. 3 times 1x, that's 3x. 3 times negative 1y is negative 3y. After I distribute, I'm supposed to combine like terms. I have 3x terms. 2 minus 8 is negative 6. Negative 6 plus 3 is negative 3, so negative 3x. Now I'm going to combine the y terms. 6 minus 3 is positive 3y. That is all we have to do here. You do not need to get a single number. You do not need to get an equal sign. Next, these first 3 are just general equations of different forms. In this first one, to solve this, you have to distribute the 2. 2 times 3 is 6x. 2 times 4 is 8. To solve this, you want to get rid of what's further away from the x, so start with getting rid of the plus 8. The opposite of addition is subtraction. 6x equals 12. 6 is being multiplied with x. The opposite of multiplication is division. And we get x equals 2 as our first answer. Next, there's no distribution here because there's no parentheses. So I'm going to go to step 2, which is combine like terms. There's 2x terms. I do not need to do the opposite since I'm just combining them and they're on the same side. I'm just going to do 10 minus 5. 10 minus 5, which is 5x. Negative 30 comes down. And I solve this. To get rid of subtraction, we add 5x equals 30. 5 times x, the opposite of multiplication is division. And we get the second answer, x equals 6. Next one. This one we do not need to simplify. It's already simplified. It's a 2-step equation. The opposite of addition is subtraction. That would be negative 16. I got to get rid of that negative 2, not by adding, by dividing. That negative 2 is being multiplied. And I get x equals positive 8. If I scroll down, so again, some general equations here. The difference is that these equations, it's asking me how many solutions. So the top 3, each of these would be one solution because there's one number. So one solution, one number. For these next 2, we're going to get something different. In this first one, I'm going to start by distributing. So I'm going to distribute on the left and I'm going to distribute on the right. That would be 9x. There's an invisible 1 right there. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 2, that's a positive 6. On the right side, 2 times 3 is 6x. 2 times 4 is 8. After we distribute, the second way to simplify is combine like terms. I can only combine 2 things, and it's these 2. They're on the same side and they're both x terms. You cannot combine it with this. That is on a whole other side, so we're not going to touch that. 9x minus 3x, that's 6x. Everything else comes down. We tend to forget that we could have variables on both sides, even though we don't like it. You have an x term here and you have an x term here. That is not good. We cannot solve it like that. So you have to move one to the other side. We tend to always move the one on the right. It's a positive, so I'm going to subtract it, take it away. What I do on one side, I do to the other. 6x minus 6x, these cancel. Don't put an x, don't put a 0x. Just cancel them out. Bring down what's left. So the 6, the equals, and then the plus 8, so the 8. 6 equals 8. That is a false statement. 6 is not the same thing as 8. So this one is no solution. Next one on the right, a little bit easier because I don't have to distribute. It's already in a form that I can solve it. Again, I have x's on both sides. That's not good. I got to move the one on the right. It's positive again, so I'm going to subtract. What I do on one side, I do to the other. Again, those cancel. Only bring down what's left. Negative 5 equals negative 5. This one is a true statement, which means IMS. Sometimes we will see that as all real numbers. And those are the three cases. A true statement is like negative 5 equals negative 5. A false statement is like 6 equals 8. And then a single number means you're going to see x equals 2. That's one solution. Those are the three types of answers we can get. Solving for a variable. Most students are very good at solving for y now because that's how we graph. We solve equations for y. So I'm going to start by getting rid of what's further away. So this 4x. It's a positive, so I'm going to make it a negative or subtract. 2y comes down. 12 minus 4x, I cannot combine those. So I'm at least going to put them in order. Negative 4x goes in the front. Positive 12 goes at the end. Now I got to get rid of the 2. So I'm going to divide. We're going to divide each piece by 2. Y is now by itself. Negative 4 divided by 2, that's negative 2. Don't forget your x. 12 divided by 2 is 6. And we now have y by itself. In this next one, it says solve for x. So you want to get this variable by itself. That means you want to get rid of the a and you want to get rid of the m. The m is further away, so I'm going to start with that. The m is being subtracted. The opposite of subtraction is addition. H plus m, we cannot actually add variables, so we're just going to leave it as h plus m equals ax. To get rid of the a, these are being multiplied. When there's two things next to each other, they're being multiplied. So the opposite of multiplication, division. So h plus m equals a, or h plus m over a equals x. I got x by itself. Some of us don't like when this is on this side, so I'm going to rewrite it. X equals h plus m over a. That's the official answer. This was all just equations, which was like topic 1, part 1. You flip to the next page. This is where we get into some inequalities. There's some general information here about open and closed circle, compound inequalities. Remember, and just means inwards, so it's shaded in between, or is shaded outwards, so it's shaded outwards, opposite directions. Those are the keywords that we use. And then there is one big rule for solving inequalities, one difference. You have to flip the inequality sign if you multiply or divide by a negative number. It starts with a little bit of graphing and then gets into the solving. This is a compound inequality. It's shaded inward, so I know that I'm going to have x in the middle. I know I'm going to have a -4 and a +1 because that's where my circles are, at -4 and +1. At 4, I have a closed circle, so that means an inequality with a bar. At 1, I have an open circle, so an inequality sign with no bar. That's it. It just wants you to write the compound inequality. Next one wants you to graph. This is an OR, so it's going to be shaded outwards. Again, you don't need to put all the numbers, you just need to put the numbers that you see, so 2 and 5. At 2, I have an open circle because there's no bar underneath. At 5, I have a closed circle. OR means outwards, so I'm going to shade outwards. Now we're going to get into a little bit of solving. With this first one, there's parentheses. Just like an equation, you always want to get rid of parentheses, so I'm going to distribute. There's an invisible 1 in front of the x, so I'm going to draw that in. 3 times 1x is 3x. 3 times 2 is 6. Bring down the -5, inequality sign, 3x plus 2. Combine like terms. I cannot combine the x's. They're on different sides, but I could combine these two. They're just regular numbers. 6 minus 5 is 1. I have x's on both sides. That is not good. So I'm going to move the 1 on the right. It's positive, so I'm going to take it away, subtract. They actually cancel out on both sides. So just bring down what's left. Again, no x. This reads as 1 is greater than or equal to 2. 1 is greater than or equal to 2. Well, 1 is not equal to 2, and 1 is not greater than 2. So this is actually a false statement, which means no solution. You could have special cases with inequalities too. The one on the right, it's a compound inequality of an OR. You just got to solve these separately. So ignore the one on the right while you solve the one on the left. Then ignore the one on the left while you solve the one on the right. On the left, it's just 3x. So 3 is being multiplied with x. Opposite of multiplication is division. X is less than or equal to -3. You do not have to flip the inequality sign here. You did not divide by a negative. That 3 that I divided by was positive. Then I solve the inequality on the right. To get rid of subtraction, I add 2x is greater than 14. To get rid of the 2, I divide. X is greater than 7. I'm just going to write these right next to each other, put the word OR, so I can circle them as one answer. Keep Working our way down. This is an and complement inequality. You saw this as bell work on Monday if you were here. This inequality has three sides, which is very different from anything else. So most students do forget how to approach this. X is in the middle, so you just want to get X by itself in the middle. So start by getting rid of the plus 6. The opposite of addition is subtraction. Since it has three sides, what you do in the middle, you do in the left and in the right. Negative 9 minus 6 is negative 15. Inequality sign. 3x is now by itself for the middle. And then this is 12. Lastly, I got to get rid of the 3 by dividing. Remember what I do in the middle, I do on the left and the right. Negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5. Less than x, less than or equal to 12 divided by 3 is 4. And this is my answer. X is now by itself in the middle. Next one is just a regular inequality. So I'm going to start by distributing. 2 times 3y is 6y. 2 times 8 is 16. Bring down everything else. Combine like terms. I have two y terms and they're on the same side, so I can combine these. 6 minus 4 is 2y. You do not have to do the opposite here because they were both on the same side. And now we solve this. Subtract 16. Divide by 2. And that gets me y less than 8. Next one is just writing an inequality. You are buying 5 shirts. The cost can be no more than $100. Write an inequality for the situation. So you're buying 5 shirts, so 5x. No more than 100. So you want to spend like $90, $95, $99. So you want to be less than 100. But you're also okay if you spend exactly 100, so with a bar. That's it. You don't need to solve it, just as write the inequality. Absolute value equations. You can read through the instructions here, but essentially you want to get the absolute value by itself. In this case, it is by itself. There's nothing on the outside of the bars. Once you get the absolute value by itself, you make two cases. You make a positive and a negative case. So x minus 5 equals positive 12. X minus 5 equals negative 12. And you solve each equation. So the opposite of subtracting is adding. Notice the work will appear the same, but you will generally get two different numbers. So these are my two answers because you made two cases. Now we're going to go into some topic 2 stuff. So slope-intercept form, point-slope form on the next page. Finding the slope. Remember we have a slope formula, which is right here. And then we have 2 points. I'm going to label these 2 points. x1, y1, x2, y2. If you plug them into the formula, you should get this. M equals 8 minus negative 6 over negative 5 minus 3. Highly recommend you use a calculator just to verify. 8 minus negative 6 becomes 14. Sometimes we rush through through this, and we might put a 2 there. That is a 14. And in the bottom, -5 minus 3 is -8. Both of these are actually divisible by 2. So if I divide the top and the bottom by 2, I would get 7 over -4. So this is my slope in reduced form. That's the answer you would see. The one on the right, identify the slope. Well, it says right here, m is your slope. So what's m? Is m the fraction or is m the 6? M is the fraction. It's always the number in front of x. We just don't put the x. So m is -3/4. Then we're going to get into topic 2. So it kind of skips around a little bit. This is standard form to find the y-intercept and x-intercept. So this is kind of abbreviated notation. To find the x-intercept, we're going to plug 0 in for y. So 12x minus 9, y goes away, 0 goes in. Remember, this should be pretty quick. Anything times 0 is 0, that cancels. So you get 12x equals -36. How do you get rid of the 12? Divide, and you get x equals -3. So that's your x-intercept. To find the y-intercept, you're actually going to do the opposite. You're going to plug 0 in for x. So 12 times 0 minus 9y equals -36. That cancels. -9y equals -36. If there's a mistake, it would have been right there. Most students forget that that 9 is negative. Now I'm going to divide both of these by -9, and I'm going to get y equals +4. We normally do not write intercepts like this, so I'm actually going to write it out. The x-intercept is 3, the y-intercept is 4. Graphing standard form, so this equation right here, we actually cannot graph an equation that looks like that. So how do we solve it? We solve for y. So it says up here, put in slope-intercept form, solve for y, and then graph it that way. You guys are pros at solving for y. So first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this 6x by subtracting. What you do on one side, you do to the other. 4y equals -6x minus 12. You cannot combine these, so at least put them in order. To get rid of this 4, I'm going to divide. And I'm going to get y equals -6/4x. That's a decimal, so we can leave it as a fraction. -12 divided by 4 is -3. This fraction could be simplified. They're both even numbers, so I am going to simplify it. If I divide the top by 2, I'm going to get 3. If I divide the bottom by 2, I'm going to get 2. And now I can graph that. B is -3, so I'm going to begin at -3. My slope is -3/2, so I'm supposed to go down 3/2. Down 3/2. I'm also going to go in the opposite direction just to make a perfectly straight line. And come up. That's how you graph an equation that is in standard form. Solve for y and then graph it like that. Okay, writing an equation in slope-intercept form. Write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form that passes through this point and is parallel to this equation. Now there is a lot going on here. So the first thing you need to know is how are they telling you your answer is going to look? Slope-intercept form, that's y equals mx plus b. So that's what we're going to be using. They're giving me a point. That's very important. That's going to be x and y. Parallel. Remember, there's two types of lines. There's parallel and perpendicular. Parallel is going to mean the same slope. Perpendicular is going to mean opposite reciprocal slopes. So since I'm using the same slope of this equation, what is the slope of that equation? The slope of that equation is right here. So the m that I'm going to be using is negative 3 over 4. If you notice, we have 3 of the 4 variables in our equation. Y is right here, m is right here, x is right here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take these 3 variables out and put these 3 numbers in. Y is now a negative 12. M is now the fraction, negative 3 over 4. X is now going to be an 8 in parentheses. Plus B, leave that as B. You need to solve for B, so that's why we're solving this for B. Multiply this in your calculator, and you should get negative 6 plus B. Get rid of the negative 6 by adding. So you get negative 6 equals B. Now we have everything we need for our equation. To write this equation, we needed M and we needed B. We have those pieces. So we can write our answer. Y equals negative 3 over 4x plus B, but B is negative, so minus 6. Okay, last few on this page, write in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So this just means you want to get y by itself, which is down here, solve for y. Start by moving the 3x, it's further away. It's a positive, so I'm going to subtract. Negative 4y equals negative 3x plus 16. Get rid of the negative 4 by dividing. I'm going to do that everywhere. Y equals, this is where there's a common mistake. A negative 3 divided by a negative 4. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. 3 over 4 is a decimal, so leave it as 3 over 4. 16 divided by negative 4, that's negative, and 4. So we've got y by itself. Next one, write the equation in point-slope form. Point-slope form is right here. Y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. Point and slope. You need a point and you need a slope. You have both of those. It says write the equation of the line in point-slope form that has slope of 4 and passes through that point. So the 4 is your m. This is your x1 and y1. You just got to take all the pieces out and put the pieces in. Y minus 6 equals m was 4, parentheses, x minus, x1 is negative 5. If you recall, we do not like this. So we're actually going to change this. Y minus 6 equals 4. A negative times a negative is a positive. So I'm going to change this to plus 5. You will never see subtracting a negative. We automatically change that to adding a positive. Right, in standard form, this one we haven't done too much. Just remember standard form means ax and by, so the x and the y should be on the same side. So in this equation, x is over here. You just want to move it with the y. But you know how to do that. If I want to move it to the other side, it's a positive, so I'm going to subtract it. And what you do on one side, you do to the other. Negative 1/3 x. That y was positive, so plus y equals 6. Technically, standard form means that this should be a whole number, but as long as you remember that x and y need to be on the same side, you're good. Solutions. Is it a solution? We tend to forget this or either get this mixed up with intercepts. Is it a solution? You just plug it in, so x and y, and then ask yourself, do I get a true or a false statement? If it's a solution, you should get true. So it gives us two of them. One of them is going to be true, one of them is going to be false. So this is my x, this is my y. 4x, I'm taking x out of the equation, 5 goes in, plus 10y, y goes away, 6 goes in, equals 100. I don't know why that one went, equals 80. Multiply these. 4 times 5 is 20. 10 times 6 is 60. 20 plus 60, that's 80. So this one is a true statement. 80 does equal 80. So this one is a yes. It is a solution. This point is probably not going to work. 4x, but x is negative 10, plus 10y, but y is 4. So y goes away, 4 goes in. Multiply them again. 4 times negative 10 is negative 40. 10 times 4 is positive 40. These are opposites, so that you would get 0 equals 80. This is false, so this one is no. It is not a solution. I'm going to pause this video here, and then there will be a second part where I will go over the last 3 pages.